Welcome along, fellow Beetle people. This time around, we're going to check out some rare photos of Tittenhurst Park that you likely have never seen before. Before I begin, please like and share the show and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Now let's begin our journey. Let's be honest, shall we? All most people know about Tittenhurst Park is that it was once owned by John Lennon, and that it was the beautiful estate where John and Yoko lived before moving to New York City. This photo by George Koenig is not rare, but you might not know that it was taken on the side of the house overlooking the part of the gardens where the Beatles would later be photographed on their last official photo shoot together. This photo was taken by Dan Richter, who lived on the estate while John and Yoko lived there and after they moved to New York. Dan and Yoko were friends long before she met John Lennon, and even though he's American, he spent quite a bit of time in Japan. He wrote a fantastic book called The Dream Is Over, which you might want to check out. Most Beatles fans know that John recorded his Imagine album in the recording studio that he built in a wing off of the kitchen in the mansion at Tittenhurst Park. And in this photo, we see John sitting there with George at the kitchen table. And you can see John's jukebox in the corner and a bubblegum machine next to the door that led to a soundproof room where people could talk on the telephone while musicians were in the recording studio. Now, I know you mostly want to see photos of the Beatles, I get it, but I've got some really great photos of the garden, so let's just go over those for a while, shall we? This photo shows the house from the gardens in the 1920s. And you might recognize that gravel path from this photo. Yeah, I know it's not a rare photo, but I'm showing it to you for the benefit of context. In addition to the mansion, Tittenhurst Park has always had numerous other buildings, including this keeper's lodge, which was actually on the property before anything else ever was. In fact, I've been told that it goes as far back as the 17th century. I think that most people have no clue how incredible the legendary gardens at Tittenhurst Park actually were. You see, places like Tittenhurst Park and Friar Park, that was owned by George Harrison, and the Dakota, where John Lennon lived at the end of his life, were world famous long before any of the Beatles moved into them. And that truly was the case with Tittenhurst Park. Now, while you look at the following photos, I'm going to tell you a bit about the history of Tittenhurst Park, and then I'm going to describe the rest of the photos that you will see. By the way, the photos that I have were black and white originally, and I colorized them to help you notice more details. So let's begin. Tittenhurst Park, a Grade 2 listed Georgian country house in Sunningdale, Berkshire, is a historic estate spanning 72 acres, best known, obviously, for its association with John and Yoko from 1969 until 1971. Built way back in 1737, yes, you heard that right, 1737, with its facade updated around 1830, the property has a rich history, having been owned by notable figures like philanthropist Thomas Holloway and horticulturalist Thomas Herman Lewinsky, long before John Lennon owned it. Its lush gardens, that were once open to the public, by the way, feature rare trees and an award-winning rhododendron collection, earning it the nickname Museum of Gardens. The following three images are from a 1963 article in Gardener's Chronicle, Gardening Illustrated. The first image shows the cover of the article featuring a photograph of an enormous weeping Atlas cedar. Beatles fans may recall seeing that botanical wonder in this photo with the Beatles. The second page has a lot of information about the estate and has an image of a weeping Wellingtonia. And the third page has three images. One shows a view of the gardens, another shows a view of the house, and another shows an incense cedar that was 92 feet high at the time. And Beatles fans may recall seeing that botanical wonder in this photo with the Beatles. And here is an advertisement from April 3rd, 1969, showing that Tittenhurst Park was up for sale. Clearly, someone showed this to John Lennon, who decided to head on over there to check it out, and soon after decided to buy it. By the way, Tittenhurst Park was never owned by John Lennon and Yoko Ono. Even though they were married at the time, it was actually owned by John and Paul's publishing company, probably for tax purposes. And also in case John Lennon ever got sued, the plaintiff would never be able to get his home. So that was probably a pretty smart idea. And here is a photo of Les Anthony, who was John Lennon's chauffeur. For a while, he and his girlfriend and her children lived in the gatehouse next to the garage near the entry to the estate. I know that there are some people who think that they lived in the keeper's lodge. They didn't. Trust me, I spoke to enough people about it. They did not live down there. I mean, maybe very briefly, Les Anthony may have stayed there while the gatehouse was being fixed up and ready for him. But it was the gatehouse where they lived, and I have the floor plans to prove it. And I will show that in another video. Although I did post the floor plans in one of my books about Tittenhurst Park. So if you desperately want to see those, you can go to Amazon and buy the book. And here's a photo of Mr. Anthony in the garage area, which used to be stables for the estate, by the way. That is John Lennon's Rolls Royce behind him. Now I assume that lady was his girlfriend at the time, or perhaps his wife. I don't know if he ever got married or not. If you happen to know, kindly let me know in the comments below, especially if you know who that lady is. Seems like it was probably his girlfriend, but I'm really not sure. But I have no doubt that somebody listening does. And so if you do, please let us know. This is a fantastic photo showing the south side of the mansion from the gardens. And you can see the gypsy caravan that John Lennon purchased for Julian. Now when John Lennon lived at Tittenhurst Park, he kept it over at the keeper's lodge, and it was falling apart. I mean, it was out there all year long, and no one took care of it. But when Ringo acquired Tittenhurst Park, he had the gypsy caravan all jazzed up and moved it over to the pool, where I was told people used to go in there to change their clothes so they could go swimming. And here's a view of the pool and the caravan taken from a higher vantage point. And here's the caravan from yet another angle. And here we have the gypsy caravan as seen by the pool, and I blurred out the faces of the children for the benefit of their privacy. But you gotta admit, those kids were spending time in a pretty amazing place. I mean, can you imagine? Not only are you swimming in the pool at Tittenhurst Park, but you're able to go in and out of that really cool gypsy caravan. By the way, how in the world does Julian Lennon not have that caravan right now? Especially since it was eventually abandoned on one of Ringo's properties. No one could ever pick up the phone and call Julian and say, "Hey man, you want your gypsy caravan? It belongs to you after all." But for some reason, nobody ever did. Or maybe they did and he didn't want it. If you happen to know, let me know in the comments below. This is a great photo showing a sign near the entry to the estate, once you pass through the security gates. As you can see, one points to the house and the other to the offices, which was the Forge Cottages, which I have plenty of photos of, by the way. I'll show you those in another video. And then of course you have that warning sign that says, "Caution, man-eating dog." We could only assume that the sign is not in reference to that little toy poodle. But then again, maybe it did. What do you think? Not many man-eating poodles out there, are there? None that I ever met anyway. Here is a great photo of 4 children standing in front of the weeping blue Atlas cedar. Once again, I blurred out their faces for their privacy. And here's another one without anybody in it at all. This was, of course, a famous tree in England at the time, and it became even more so thanks to George Harrison being inspired to refer to it in one of his songs. And just for fun, I am not going to tell you what that song was. It'll be more fun if you tell me in the comments below. This photo shows how the tennis court looked in the 1960s and 1970s. And this is a rare photo that shows the lake being created on the property. Yep, you heard that right, being created. As you may know, there was never a lake on the estate until John Lennon requested that one be built. It's not very deep, by the way, and it had rubber along the bottom to keep the water from seeping into the soil. The next two photos show the keeper's lodge. By the way, this is where Zach, Ringo's son, and his wife, Zach's wife, and their baby lived when they got married. You also may know that the keeper's lodge was featured in at least 2 of Ringo's music videos in the 1970s. When I first saw this photo, I was absolutely amazed. It shows the keeper's lodge in absolutely perfect condition. And it even has a long deck along the front, which seems more decorative than functional since it does not look like there was a way to access it, right? No spiral staircase or anything. And here is a rarely seen photo of John and Yoko near the keeper's lodge. This final image shows John Lennon in perhaps one of the few times he actually had a bit of fun with his son Julian. And that's not my opinion. By all accounts, neither one of them had particularly happy memories of being together, which is kind of sad, isn't it? But either way, here they are together, having a little bit of fun while riding a mini bike on the grounds of Tittenhurst Park. By the way, these photos came to me from a variety of sources. And for their privacy, I didn't give them credit because I don't want a bunch of people contacting them and bugging them. However, if they're okay with getting credit, any one of them can contact me and I will give them credit in the description below. So, what do you think of these rare photos taken at Tittenhurst Park? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If you have any rare photos of Tittenhurst Park or Friar Park or the Dakota or any other places associated with the Beatles, especially their homes, please let me know. Perhaps I will even feature them in a future video. Kindly remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Please check out the links below to learn how to support my research and productions. Kindly be kind to all of our fellow Earthlings, and please do not harm them. And do yourself a favor and go to a local shelter and adopt a cat or a dog or both. You and they will be very glad that you did. Until next time, I wish you safe travels on all your journeys.